Well, let's begin. I'm also gonna share my screen here. So I just have some slides that you can follow along with, and then I'll talk. And we're gonna go like super fast because, as I said, the high schoolers are getting on here at 7:30. So Kate will take over at that point, and maybe some of you are sticking around to hear what your older kids get to do. But here we go. Okay. As I promptly press the wrong thing. There we go. So number one, hey, welcome everyone. We're super excited to be able to do this. We all know that our plans for last summer got totally wrecked. Hey, Jake Jensen. Are you, Jake, are you looking to hear what high school is up to? Or you want to hear it all?
I'll hear it all.
Okay, that's cool. Welcome. All right, a couple more people are coming on. So, yes, we're very excited with the way that you know the pandemic and vaccinations are going. That we get to dream back into this world of gathering together and doing summer ministry, doing some cool things. So we're gonna talk about that tonight and have time for some questions and stuff at the end. If you have questions along the way, maybe just drop it in the chat box. I'll try to keep a watch on that also. But I will respond to all of your questions. I'll try to do it as best I can. First I want to start with this question though of why summer ministry? This is a big question. Why do we do these things? And in our youth ministry department at Trinity, we have a slogan that says, live on purpose. And we really believe that with God, there are no accidents. Every one of us was made on purpose, for a purpose by a loving God. And these summer experiences, whether it's a service trip or an adventure trip or some kind of mix or blend or vacation Bible school or summer camp, these are things that God uses to pull us further into our purposes, and we should look forward with at those things. And so they give us a chance to connect to each other, which is really important, especially the way the world is now. But they also give us a chance to grow deeper in our relationship with God and to experience God in new and meaningful ways. So that's the gist of why do we do this. Plus, they're awesome. So we want to think about where is God sending us? And I think this is a twist versus like you go on a vacation. I mean, you used to go on vacations before there was a pandemic. But when you go somewhere, that's all about you. What do I want to do? What do I want to see? What do I want to experience? And there's nothing wrong with that. But summer trips, it's a little bit deeper. Where does God want us to go? What does God want us to do? What does God want us to experience? And are we prepared to say yes and step into that? So I'm going to think about where is God sending us. So here's our dates for next summer. We're looking at doing a middle school adventure trip in July. July 11th to 18th. At about the same time, the high schoolers will be heading on their own adventure trip, July 10th through 17th. We're going to run a vacation Bible school for families in August, and then there's going to be other opportunities. Some of you out there have done this with me. We have done backyard barbecues. We've done pizza at the park. So there's going to be other ways that we stay connected this summer, and there'll be more information to come on those things. So those are our dates for our adventure trip. I'm going to talk about it and then we'll do some questions, whatever you're wondering. So our adventure trip, we partner with a company called Noah's Ark. They are a Christian rafting and outdoor adventure guide company. They're incredible. We do a trip with them every 2 years. Last year, 2020, would have been our year to go with them, and that didn't happen. So we're going to go back. We don't want anyone to lose this opportunity. And what our trip, everything that's included in this trip is traveling out there. We do some things along the way, but when we're with Noah's, we have, I would say, 4 full days of outdoor experiences that are like unlike anything else. And one day it's rock climbing, which I love. Rock climbing is one of my favorite things. So that's you go up, and then rappelling. And rappelling is when you go down. So this bottom picture is looking up at the rappelling wall. That's about 80 feet. And they're standing on, it's almost like a tabletop of the mountain. And there, everyone's harnessed in and tied off, and there's a guide holding it. You know, you're completely safe. And then you just lean back and go over the edge. It's terrifying for me, but some people are like, this is the best thing. I could take or leave rock climbing. I don't care about that. But I loved rappelling. I loved going down. And so that's one day is rock climbing and rappelling. One day is hiking. So we split into some different groups and see different trails of the mountains in Colorado, and come back out. And then we have 2 days of whitewater rafting. So we get ready, we go through all the safety stuff, make sure you have all your gear, you pack a dry bag, and then we raft for half the day. We camp on the side of the river at a campsite, and the guides make us dinner, we play some games, and then the next day we load up again and we keep rafting. You know, because you can't raft back up the river, so you have to keep going, right? So we raft back to camp, and then we have some time to load out and take a shower before we hit the road and start the drive home. But those are our main experiences while we're at Noah's Ark. It's really, it's first off, it's beautiful, and the things that you get to do are amazing. It's this great balance between, you know, we're always doing something that's amazing, and then we just have quiet time at camp. Like, we're sitting around the campfire telling stories. We're, you know, hitting a volleyball around or throwing a frisbee, or people are bringing their hammocks and just sit in their hammocks. So it's this cool balance of just time for rest and then time to really be challenged in these activities. I'll say this also, one of my favorite things is on rock climbing day, there's always people who are very worried or nervous about rock climbing. You know, rock climbing, it's hard to do. You need some arm strength, and you need to conquer a fear of heights. And even though you're tied off and you have a harness and all these things keep you safe, you still have to take the steps to do it. But what's incredible is the ways that the group will sort of gather at the bottom of the wall and like cheer on. You know, people are saying, wait, if you reach here, or try putting your foot here and then pull and lift. And it's a really powerful way that the group comes together. So so that's a bit about what we do while we are there. Let's talk. Let's do a pause here quick. Does anybody have questions about what happens at Noah's Ark? I'll try to open my window and get a look at everyone. If you do, you just unmute and.
I have a question.
Luke, yeah, what's your question?
So like, if you can bring a friend, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
So on the days that you like split up into different groups, do you bring a friend and he's not from this church, do you like automatically get to be with that friend?
Probably. I don't know that I can answer that right now, but I mean, if your friend isn't from our church, I might want them to be comfortable with you. So, but that's something we can talk about in our planning meetings and stuff.
Like if they're the same age as us, but they're not in 6th grade, they were held back here, could they still go?
I'll have to talk with Chris O about that. I'll give you like a maybe, a loose maybe. I want to be able to say yes, but I'll have to check some things with that.
Okay.
Yeah, good questions.
How does the weather affect certain events? Like if climbing and stuff like that.
Erin, that's a great question. She asked, how does weather affect certain events? Generally, all of the events, we go for it. But that said, if it's raining during rock climbing day, that's not very safe. You know, you can slip as you're climbing and get cut or bruised or break a nail. So there's a chance that we would move that day. We'd flip flop and we'd go hiking. And I know that sounds strange to like go hiking in the rain, but you can do it. Otherwise, like, you know, if you're on the river, you're on the river, you're wet. You know, we paddle regardless. I've been out there and it's rained a little bit. You know, you have to remember you're in the mountains, you're in dry country. So there isn't a lot of rain, but there also the weather changes. The joke is if you're worried about the weather, wait a half an hour. So we generally just plan ahead. You know, bring a poncho, bring a rain jacket, or bring clothes that you don't care if you get soggy. But there's some other things. Yeah, good question. Any other questions about out at Noah's Ark?
Hey, Chris, could you talk us through the traveling out and traveling back timeframes?
Yes, good question, Mears. So right now the trip is scheduled to go a Saturday until the next Sunday, so 8 days. Nope, sorry, Sunday through Sunday, so 8 days, Sunday through Sunday. So the plan right now is we meet at church on Sunday morning, and we'll go to worship or experience worship together, and then we'll load up and go. And we travel that full Sunday, and we'll stay in Nebraska at a church. We travel Monday, we'll end up in Denver at a church. And then Tuesday, we'll do a couple things in the morning, and that's a little bit of a teaser that I won't say what we're going to do, but we'll end up out at Noah's Ark in Colorado early to mid-afternoon. And then that first day at camp, we just check in, and they do like, hey, welcome to camp, here's our guidelines, yada, yada, yada. We'll meet our guides. We'll have guides that primarily work with our crew. That's our first night there. We're just kind of getting used to camp. And then we have 4 days. So we have usually rock climbing and rappelling is day 1. Hiking is day 2. Those could flip-flop if the weather is really weird, like I was saying to Aaron. But then days 3 and 4 are whitewater rafting because we stay overnight on the river. And then at the end of that 4th day, which in our case would be Saturday, then we'll come back to camp. We'll finish loading out our gear, and we'll drive back to Denver. We start our trip back. We're only doing 1 night back, and then we're home Sunday evening. Does that help? Nice. Any other questions about Noah's Ark, and then I can talk about costs and that kind of stuff. Aaron, yeah.
Our question was, do you stay in cabins when you're at Noah's Ark? Are you camping in a tent? Obviously, you're doing like a tent maybe on the whitewater rafting day, but the other nights?
Yeah, good question. So at camp, at base camp, they have, they call them weather ports, and it's basically like a wooden platform with a giant tarp tent dome over it. So we've got a couple of those for boys and girls. And then often what happens is that after like 1 night, people are like, hey, I could pull my sleeping bag and my mattress out on the lawn, and they'll just sleep out under the stars. And it gets a little cold by morning, and you kind of get the dew on you. So oftentimes I come out of my tent and there's like 8, kids all over the lawn like this. And they're soaked in the like morning dew, but it's a cool experience. It feels like you're sleeping inside of the stars. So that's where we stay for those few days that we're at base camp. And then you're right, we take tents with us on the river. So when we load up, get on the rafts, you have to pack a dry bag with a partner. So you have to bring 1 change of clothes, your sleeping bag, and your pillow all in like a dry bag, and we pitch tents, and then that's where you sleep the 1 night on the river. So
If we're like, how is changing gonna work if we're all in like 1 tent and stuff like that?
yes, good question. There are bathrooms. There's a bathhouse and restrooms and things like that, so there's privacy. You don't have to just change in a giant room. Yeah, good question. So, and as far as what to pack and all that kind of stuff, as we get going and planning, there'll be monthly meetings for our team. and we'll pass out a packing list, and we'll really talk about why you should bring this and not that and all that kind of stuff. So I don't want you to get too worried tonight about like, will I have the right pair of socks or not? You know, we'll talk through all of that. All right, good stuff. I'm going to move on to costs, and then we'll have some more Q&A time at the end. Kate's here now, so we'll have to hand it over to her at 7:30. All right. Costs. Okay, first off, I've talked about it includes travel and staying at churches and at base camp when we're there. It includes the cost that we have to pay to Noah's Ark for them to do what they're doing and provide guides for us and food for us while we're there at base camp. The cost also includes all the other meals along the way. So breakfasts that we get together, fast food along on the roadside or whatever, that's included. And then any other side adventures and kinds of things, we've planned for that, and we plan the cost for that so that everyone can participate. You know, you don't get left outside of the laser tag arena or something. But basically what I want you to know is that it includes everything that goes into the trip is included in the cost that I'm about to show you. So our middle school trip with Noah's Ark, it's $1,000. The high school trip with Sky Ranch is $850. And some people wonder, why is that different? Some of it has to do with the fees that those partners charge. Noah's Ark just costs more because we're whitewater rafting than Sky Ranch. We also spend more time on the road. The high schoolers just drive, like they just punch it down and drive, so they have less time on the road, less meals on the road, that kind of thing. And the cool thing for Kate and the high school team is that Sky Ranch actually gives a little bit of a discount for their leaders. So if you're just wondering, hey, it sounds like these trips are the same, why aren't the costs the same? That's basically the reason. And this is before you pay a deposit and before Trinity includes congregational support, which is a really cool thing that we're able to do. And it also is before you do any fundraising. So again, in practical, like laying it out here, it's your trip cost minus a deposit minus congregational support, which I'll talk about in just a second. And then you'll have an amount due that you have to pay out of pocket and or fundraise. So if you want to see real numbers, you've got your trip is $1,000. Your deposit is $150 or some kind of an agreement or scholarshiping. Like we can work out anything, just talk to me about it and set that up. And then Trinity also will kick in $150 because we believe in sending people to share God's love and experience God's love in the world. So especially young people, we want you to be able to go on this trip. So just by signing up, that's $150 that our congregation, our church is able to fund to support you. So that leaves $700 in the next 6-ish months to fundraise or save or however you want to do that. And that comes out of your pocket or to be fundraised.
I forgot, do people, if you bring a friend, do they get the congregational support?
Great question, Erin. She's wondering if your friend, if they aren't from Trinity, do they also get the congregational support? And absolutely yes, for sure. Yep. We budgeted this for every participant who is going on the trip, whether they're Trinity or not. Yeah, that's a great question. So if you're thinking about inviting a friend, that's a good selling point just to talk with them and their parents. So, you know, our church will kick in $150 just for you to participate in this thing because we really think that it is meaningful and impactful and will change you. So, so what's next? Oh wait, before I say that, yes, we do have 3 fundraisers in the works. The season of Lent is coming up in just a few weeks. So the middle of February through Easter, on Wednesday nights, we'll be serving meals. The elementary and high school and middle school teams, you can sign up to work the meals on Wednesday night, basically like delivering boxed meals from the kitchen to a car or washing dishes, kind of all that we can do at this point. But the more that you work and the more people who come and get a dinner, then you can earn money toward your trip in that way. We also, we're rethinking. We have an annual garage sale that we usually do in May, and we're trying to rethink how best to do that, either in May or early June, and still do it, same kind of thing, where the more hours you work, the more that you earn toward your trip costs. And then the last thing, we did this about 2 years ago. It's called the Giving Tree. And we post with this like cool tree with different envelope amounts. So we basically just ask the congregation to donate. And all of those donations get evenly distributed between all the summer trip people. So it's another way. Kate, I don't know if you remember, but I think it was about $75 per person is about the amount from 2 years ago. Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. So just like that, just because people are generous and want to support the amazing things that you do, $75 cheaper to go to Noah's Ark. All right. Okay. So what should you do next? First off, pray about this. Talk together as a family. Again, think about, where is God sending me? Why is God sending me to do this? Who does God want me to invite to join in this experience? Our registration is going to start here on Wednesday. It won't be right away tomorrow. We just have a couple things to get kind of get lined up to go live on the website. But on Wednesday, you can start signing up, and that registration will run through the end of March. So after March 31st, we're kind of locked in with our service partners and the other plans that we need to make. And it's really, really difficult to add you after that point. So pray and talk as a family, but do it quickly. And then if you would turn in a deposit or some kind of an agreement, whatever that might be, a payment plan or a scholarship, we can figure that out. And then online, there's a trip interest form. And it basically is your information, and then it asks you a few questions about why you think God is calling you to do this. Why does God want you on this trip? So turn that in, and then you're signed up. And then, I mentioned this earlier, but watch for communication from me about monthly meetings. We're really in a condensed schedule. Normally, it's literally the last day of January. Usually we've had one meeting already, and we're just starting signups. So we're gonna have to move fast, but we will get you prepared. We'll get you everything you need to know, and we will get our team getting to know each other. So one last thing is that, yes, we do need help from parents and adults. We don't need chaperones. We need leaders. And a cool thing is that our leaders don't pay anything out of their pocket unless you really want to. That's included in the trip costs, and something that we believe at Trinity, you're giving your time. You're maybe taking vacation time or your time away from your family for sure. And you shouldn't have to pay anything on top of that. We do ask that as a leader, you also submit an application, and we just review that and make sure you're cool, and then get you added to the trip stuff. And the cool thing about being an adult leader is that you'll get some leadership opportunities along the way, like being in charge of van stops or helping to find them meals along the way. Small group leadership things. There's some cool ways to be involved. So you're not just there to be a warm body and tell people, hey, stop that kind of thing. Right. So there, we've done it. We have flown through this. I feel like I feel like I'm the fire hose or whatever, and you're taking the drink. I don't know. But questions. We've got time for questions before Kate picks me up.
So what's the summary of fundraising and deposit and all of that from last year? Again, not super details, but just, is any of that being carried over?
Oh, yes. Okay, so Amy is asking, because a few of you are people who you had signed up to go last year in 2020. If you elected, so if you paid a deposit, as long as you didn't ask for a refund, we still have your deposit. We'll add that to this amount, or use it for this year's deposit. Am I making sense of that? So we'll use your money that you've already put toward this trip. We've got that. And we had just started to do some fundraising with the Lenten meals before everyone got sent home in March. So if you worked any of those meals, we have that record, And any of the funds that were earned then for your hours, yes, we'll carry that forward. Yep, we don't want you to lose out on any of that stuff. Good question. Any other questions? We've got about 5 minutes, 4 minutes.
So when we go to Noah's Ark, will it just be Trinity, or will there be other like groups there?
Good question, Luke. We're just traveling with our team of Trinity and your friends. But when we're at base camp at Noah's Ark, there will be other church groups from all over the place who are at base camp. We probably won't have many interactions with them. It's mostly just kind of like walking through the camp area, or being at the dining. It's like an outdoor dining picnic table area. So there might be people also dining at the same time, but really we're not doing any events or games or activities together along the way.
Hey, Chris, is this trip offered every year or every other year? And so meaning, will this be offered next year, or is this kind of will it be 2023 then?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I meant to say that at the beginning, is that normally this is an every other year trip, but because we missed last year, now we're going to go this year. But that would be the future plan, is that it wouldn't come around again for 2 more years. So it's every other year, and it's just sort of off a year now.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Yeah. So the next time we'll do this will be in 2 years. And as I'm looking at you guys thinking about this, we had friends who were 8th graders last year signed up to go on the trip. They're now 9th graders. We've extended the invitation for them to choose which trip they want to do. If they want to come back and do this trip like they'd hoped to last year, absolutely welcome to do that. I think that'd be really cool. We also know that you're now in 9th grade and maybe you want to choose to do the high school trip. Either way, absolutely, we would allow it, and we'll make it happen. But this would be the only year that would happen. So like when we run this again in 2 years, it will only be 6th, 7th, and 8th graders.
Okay, very good. Yeah, Olivia's in 7th grade now.
Mm-hmm.
This is really the only chance to go. So.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep. Okay. Okay, good.
Yeah. And then Kate's the high school adventure trip, also to Colorado, just a different partnership. That's on a 3-year rotation. So they rotate between an adventure trip, the National Youth Gathering, and then some kind of a service, like a building service trip. So this is a year where they line up with us, and then next year will be a youth gathering trip, and it kind of rotates off from that. But
okay.
Any other trip questions or fundraising questions, cost questions, staff questions?
Obviously you don't really know like what the procedures are yet, but do you know like how COVID is gonna affect like the trip?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Paige. And I think the simplest answer is not quite yet. Noah's Ark is working on some of their safety protocols that they'll get to me. They said March is usually when they give their waiver information. So they'll tell me that, like how that'll affect once we're at camp. At this point, it's still very early vaccination side, and this is totally a guess, but I'm going to guess masks are going to be worn in our vans as we travel. It's a long drive. But there'll be plenty the good thing is that most of the trip is outdoors. So we can be outdoors. We don't have to wear masks. We can just spread out. But those are things that we're going to be very heavily considering and what that means. So I don't know. It's so interesting, you guys, how like this has been going on for 10 months and it changes all the time. But I think, part of why we're excited to be able to do this is that it seems like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and that we've turned the corner on this thing. I know it's still really bad as far as people who are getting infected and dying, but it seems like the possibility is there for us to be able to do these kinds of things and do it well. That's a good question. Anything else? Nice. Well, I've got 7:31. So, Kate, I'm going to close it with the prayer, and then I'm going to make you the host person for the high school group. I can tell you, I know Knutson's will be back because Eli and Amy were here mistakenly at 7, but they'll be back. Last thing I just want to say, you guys, any questions that you have, call, email, text me. This will get posted tomorrow, and you can sign up starting on Wednesday. But really, if you're wondering anything about how this all works and how to get your friends signed up and whatever, just ask, because I'm here to help you. Okay? Thanks for doing this mad dash with me. Let's have a prayer, and it's all yours, Kate. Good and gracious God, we thank you for the ways that you call us forward and the ways that you call us to adventure. Help us to start preparations, preparing our hearts, preparing our minds, preparing our bodies for what lies ahead in Colorado. Help us build excitement, to be ready and open to grow and to learn and to challenge ourselves, and to invite others to experience the great love that you have for us. Thank you for this group of people here tonight, and ask that you bless all of our plans going forward. Amen. Bye, everyone. You're awesome. Take care.
Bye, Chris.
See ya.